All right, joining me via Zoom. I guess it's becoming a little bit of a fall tradition here. I mean, the leaves turn. You grab your pumpkin spice latte. You listen to Tim Tebow on the Aaron Torres podcast. Tim needs no introduction, but we all know him. ESPN Heisman Trophy winner here on behalf of All State Good Works team. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing good. So is that your choice is the pumpkin spice latte? Is that the one you go with?
All right, so it's a little bit of a confession time here. I had to take the dog out before I got on the phone with you here, and we were rushing around this morning. I have Tim Tebow on a call. I can't keep Tim Tebow waiting, and I took her by her favorite little store, and they had pumpkin spice dog treats, which I've never seen before. She loved
Love
them.
that.
And it was kind of on my mind as I was introing, but it's the second year in a row with you. But yeah, the pumpkin spice dog treats were kind of on my mind, which is where the latte conversation came from.
But Aaron, I'm a massive dog lover, right? We have 3 dogs, and like we treat our dogs so well. So like we take them, they get puppuccinos, and they travel all over the place. So I'm with you. If my wife heard that, we might be in the car right now doing this Zoom and letting them get the little pumpkin spice latte dog treats. So
Well,
yeah,
they are readily available in many places. My little princess here is actually sleeping on the bed right next to me, being a very very good girl. She's actually looking at me right now. But anyway, you're here, All State Good Works team. So listen, first of all, before we even get into some of the details, some of the guys involved, this is something I know you've been involved with for a number of years, dating back to your playing days. And for people who aren't familiar, we all know your playing career, your analyst career, but tell us a little bit about your work with All State Good Works team.
Well, yeah, with the All-State AFCA Good Works team, I've been fortunate to be a part of the team in '09, and for the last several years get to be an ambassador for this team. And it's something I'm so passionate about because there are so many awards for what happens on the field, but this is one of the few for what all these young men are doing off of the field, the impact they're making. And it is broad all over the world, whether that's from Guatemala or DR or Africa or Mexico, or St. Jude's or hospitals or cancer patients or Make-A-Wish. They're making such a difference. And I love it also because it's at the highest level of Clemson and Georgia and Will Shipley and Ladd McConkey, but it's also at the FCS schools at Ashland College. And and I think what's awesome is whether you have a big profile like Blake Corum, who started his own foundation, or you're just using the platform that you've been given in your school to make a difference. We all can make a difference. I think that's one of the other things that we really see in the Good Works team is, some of them have a platform that can affect hundreds or thousands, and the other ones can affect hundreds of thousands or millions. But they're taking advantage of that opportunity, and they're making such a difference. And I just love seeing all of these stories and being able to vote on the members of the team, and then getting the chance to become friends with them and serve with them. And over the years, we've had so many volunteer efforts, whether that's been in my backyard of Jacksonville, or whether that's been in New Orleans, or that's been, coming together, or is continuing to stay friends. I think just this team means a lot to so many of these young men, because it's one of the few things that celebrates who they are and the choices they're willing to make to help people off of the field. And I think to most of them, that's just more important, as it should be, than whatever happens on the field. So just so grateful that All State brings all these young men together to celebrate them, but also to continue to inspire them to do more. And they are incredible things all over the world.
I don't want to name, one player without, trying in any way dismissing what all the other guys are doing. But I did notice Blake Corum made the team every year, 2 years in a row. They've beaten Ohio State, and kind of during that game. Well, no, but they'll show Blake Corum right around that Thanksgiving time, kind of handing out turkeys. And so, it's not necessarily a Blake Corum thing, but that's another thing that I've noticed as well, is that guys in, this NIL world, a lot of them are using, the now financial resources that are afforded to them. Go ahead, Tim.
He's one that's doing it. Yeah, he's one that's doing that. He started his own foundation. And through that, he's using some of his NIL funds. He's doing so many different things, bringing people together, caring for people, serving, helping, using different opportunities. And I love how creative some of these young men are too, right? Like it's whatever's in their area, whatever their university does. And then, they're able to do unique things. So you just talked about Blake Corum doing some cool things around Thanksgiving. And so many of these men have done it. But I think Blake's one of the guys with a really big platform. So he started his own foundation, and under that, they do so many things. And I think, he's just a special example of a special young man that honestly, he didn't even have to come back, but he came back to college. And I'm excited for him. Hopefully, just Lord willing, he stays healthy. I just, I want him to be healthy and have a full year. And he's just an amazing young man that's doing so much for people. Thanks for bringing him up.
Absolutely. No. And it's something even before I knew we were talking, it's something I remember from those Ohio State, Michigan games the last few years, them, spotlighting him. And I'm happy to see him and so many others doing so much good work around their communities. Real quick, I do need to hit a couple college football things with you. I know you're a busy man. Talk to me about this past weekend. So we're recording on Monday here, a few days after Alabama lost to Texas. What do you like as a fan of college football? I mean, one, like I have no anti-Texas bias. I think it's cool to see them elevate, but also, Nick Saban's been doing it. We all watched Swamp Kings this year. Nick Saban's been doing it since Tim Tebow was on the other sideline. So what do you make of
doing it a lot before me? He was doing it at LSU and when they won the Natty, man. He's been doing it a long time.
Yeah. What do you make? Is it something like, is it fixable? I mean, because, it's national championship or bust at Alabama, and it's not to say whatever, but what did you make of what we saw Saturday in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, totally fixable. I went back yesterday and I watched the all 22 copy, because sometimes when you just watch the game copy, emotions can be such a part of it and you can't see the whole thing. But I want to give Texas credit. I love their team. I love what Sark is doing. I think it's important to mention them first to give context and then talk about Alabama. I think Texas is a top 5 football team. And we've heard for years, we're back and blah, 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 all of that, right? The Sam Ehlinger and all the years of saying they're back, they weren't back. They didn't have a roster that was back to contend every single week. This year, they do. Sark has done an amazing job of recruiting and then getting in transfers to fill out their roster. They're not back because of just a quarterback or Xavier Worthy or Sark. They're back because you look at offense and defensive line, they matched and possibly won the physical line of scrimmage against Bama. That's a really big statement. And then they also matched up athlete for athlete. That's another big statement against Alabama to be able to do that. And then on top of that, you got a Xavier Worthy, an A.D. Mitchell from Georgia. You got a Quinn Ewers, and then play calling with Sark. All of those reasons, that's when you can look at them and say they're back. Because whatever game you want to play, they can play it. You want to be a physical at the line of scrimmage, look at their defensive line. You want to play athlete for athlete, spread it out, they can play that game. You want to go play caller to play caller, they can play that game. So before they had to win in a high-scoring matchup, right? But now they can play a lot of different styles of football and be very competitive. So I love their team. And I love the toughness of Quinn Ewers, the confidence he's playing with, taking the next step. And so I want to give them a lot of credit. But then when we move to Alabama, I think with Alabama, they're not as far off as I think people, it's like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. No, it's not. Like, this is still a really good football team. You lost to another really good football team, and you also made a lot of little mistakes. There's 2 touchdowns called back. There were multiple wheel routes by running backs that were missed just by inches. One of them was caught and it was a little behind him, and the guy tripped, would have scored a touchdown, which ultimately didn't end up in a touchdown. Another one was a miss where they didn't score on that, and it was just over his fingers. You get one of those 2, the game's very different, right? There was multiple interceptions by Jalen early on in his career, right? This is, it's 3rd start. And you don't have that, the game's very different. Also, he had multiple plays where he didn't see people down the field, but I think you could see the upside of him. And I just want to be sure. I also see a big upside in Jalen. I know a lot of people are like, well, they lost one time. Like, easy, guys. It's his 3rd start against a defense that was bringing everyone. I mean, they were bringing a lot of different blitzes, a lot of different looks. And so I'm still a believer in him. I think his upside is immense. I would give him a lot of chances. And also look at, they weren't able to really run the ball without him. So that is, I just think that for Alabama, there's a massive upside. It's a team that has some really good offensive linemen. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but their left tackle had a really hard day, and that created a lot of pressure for Jalen. And I just think there's a lot of opportunity for Bama. The season is super young, so for both teams, it's not out of the question they could see each other again. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it is worth noting, by the way, Alabama had a lead in the fourth quarter of that game. Now, the final score wouldn't reflect that, but they did have a lead in the fourth quarter. Stuff didn't work out. Really quickly, so a couple things. I mentioned Swamp Kings. Two quick thoughts on that. One, I was curious. I don't know if you got to see it before it premiered when everybody else did, but I was curious for your perspective. But two, I also think, kind of don't want to be negative on college football, but there were some kind of parallels to what Florida's going through right now, kind of in a rebuild under Billy Napier. I was curious, one, just your perspective on the documentary, but then two, do you see parallels with where Florida's trying to get to right now? Again, coming off a nice win on Saturday, struggled against Utah, but obviously very early in a rebuild there.
So I got to see some clips of it early, but I still haven't even watched the final product. And I haven't seen the whole thing.
It's good.
I've just been all over the place, but I've gotten a lot of people that have mentioned it to me, and so a lot of people have said nice things about it. And I think more than anything for me that time, I really mean it, more than anything, more than the highs or the lows. I think when I think about it, it's about brotherhood. It's about relationships. It's about how we all could come together to accomplish something bigger than ourselves. And sometimes we did, and sometimes we fell a little bit short, but I think that's just special. And even throughout it, I've been able to connect more with certain guys because, sometimes you need something to bring you back together. And, it's just fun, hugging each other's neck, and just a lot of special memories and moments and relationships with that. And that's really special. I think to tie it to the parallel at the end of the question of now is, I think one of the things about that time and now is that as at Florida, it's just like Alabama, Texas, and all these schools, there's a lot of pressure. That pressure is real. Is it always based on an accurate perception? maybe not, but the pressure is real. And I think it's so important to handle that, and then also put your players in a position where you can handle the good as well as the bad, handle the negative, handle the criticism. And I think, Florida week one, got a good amount of it. And I think the good thing for Florida fans is I don't see it as bad as I think a lot of people made it out to be, because there's a difference between fixable things and non-fixable things. If you just get run over because you're not big, strong, fast enough, that's not fixable, right? But if it's, okay, 2 number 3s on the field on 4th down, that's fixable. False starts, that's fixable. Ricky Pearsall making a man move versus a zone move and not sitting in the zone and it hits off of him and it's a pick. That's fixable. And so you see so many things that are fixable. Now there's a lot of them that need to be fixed. And so that's not that encouraging, but they can be fixed. And this is going to be a really big one this week against Tennessee. And I'm excited about it because, if there's an opportunity to try to bounce back, it's at home at night against Tennessee. And Tennessee's, although I love their style of play and I love the upside of Joe Milton, there's still a lot that they're figuring out, right? They're replacing, obviously, in my opinion, one of my favorite players last year in Hendon Hooker, who's a great leader and player. And Joe's got a high upside, but he's still, young in the offense, even though he has a lot of experience. And then they're replacing Jalen Hyatt and a lot of their playmakers, and they got talent. But we could see last week against Austin Peay, there was a lot of misses, a lot of wide rights and just not on the same page in a little bit. So if Florida can execute early and play their style of play, because it's very different than Tennessee's, maybe they can make that game a 4th quarter game, and you never know what could happen.
I'll tell you what, that was going to be my last question, your thoughts on the game, but I know your schedule is tight on time. By the way, check out Swamp Kings. I don't know why I'm heavy to sell you on it, but a lot of
you're not selling me on it. I got to live it too.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say a lot of Tim Tebow in war paint lifting at midnight in that video. That was like my favorite part. Was like, you know,
I love how that gets mentioned all the time. You know, just at Alabama, I had some of the stream coaches being like, "Hey man, I wish we could have lifted at midnight." I was like, "Of course." So yeah. I love it. It's funny.
Yeah, I never played at the level that you did, but I did play, and you know, brings you back to that time of your life in high school and with your guys and all that stuff. So I enjoyed it. And Tim Tebow again here on behalf of All State Good Works team. Any last thoughts on the team, on the initiative, you know, how fans can get involved, all that stuff?
Yeah, I think that just from the fan standpoint, I just love it just to support these young men. To, you know what, we root for them and we cheer for them, and sometimes we criticize them, but understand that the impact they're making around the world, it is profound. And so let's appreciate that. Let's appreciate the lives that they're changing, whether that's Makai Wingo at LSU doing Make-A-Wish type experiences, or that's Lad McConkey at Georgia visiting families with special needs, or that's Will Shipley going to hospitals and visiting kids. These are kids that we cheer for and sometimes criticize because they might not be on our team. But let's remember to keep things in perspective. And I think that's one of the things that Allstate does, and I'm so grateful for, is this good works team that celebrate what really matters in our community, even more so than sports. And I know we get so passionate about a game, and that's fun to do it, but what they're doing is so much more profound and meaningful, and they're making such a big difference in their cities, but also all around the world. So thank you for letting me share about that.
No problem. Tim Tebow, you see him on ESPN every week. That's all I got, man. Thank you for the time, and hopefully, you know, this time again. Yeah, next year we'll do it again. We'll do it again. So thank you.
Let's do it. We'll run it back. I like it. See you, man.